Mike Damergis hanging out with Ron Guidry. Ron, take us back to June 17th, 1978, 18 strikeouts. You came out of the bullpen, and Thurman Munson allegedly didn't think you had that great of stuff.
No, he didn't. It started earlier than that. When I walked out of the bullpen, I asked Sparky Lyle, there was a routine that would go on. You'd finish your last throw, and I'd walk into the bullpen dugout, get a drink of water, walk out, walk down the steps. And as I was going out the steps, he'd hand me my jacket. Then I'd always put it on. So I was putting on my jacket, and I happened to look up to him, and I asked him, I said, when is the earliest you've ever been in a game? Because I feel like I don't have anything. And he says, you got more than you think. Just get the ball down. So, okay. And when I walked in, because that's the problem I was having loosening up. I was throwing the ball well, but everything was up. Whatever I was trying, I just couldn't seem to get the ball into the strike zone. Everything was about chest high. So the first inning started out, and it was I remember giving up a line drive double down the third baseline. One of the next hitters almost took my head off with a line drive. It wasn't the typical dominating kind of game. It just started out, and when I walked back in I sat down in the dugout next to Thurman, and I looked at him, and he said, "Don't look at me." He said, "I don't know. You got nothing." So we started laughing. So I said, okay, well, the next inning I went out, and it wasn't as bad as the first inning. It was a little bit better. The ball started to get down a little bit. And I came in, and I looked at him, and he goes, not much better. And then the third inning, I went out, and I struck out the side, and I came back in, and I said, well. And he looked at me, and he goes, let's not talk about that. But what he did was I turned around to get something, and he asked the train, he said, can you run inside my locker? He said, and get me an extra glove, batting glove. Oh. He said, he's killing my hand. So from then on, it was different. But, it was like, I've told this to many people. I wound up with a lot, but the honest-to-God truth was I didn't know what I had at any time in the game, and I actually was not trying to strike out anybody. I was just trying to throw pitches, to the hitters so they could get themselves out. I didn't realize that, I was throwing as hard as I was. My slider was real good. And it was a game where if I threw a pitch right down the middle of the plate, they would generally take it, and they'd swing at all the bad ones. So, that's what Thurman was doing. He threw a first pitch fastball down the middle because you just struck a guy out before you on sliders. So, the guys say, last time up was a fastball. Now it's probably going to be a slide. So they were guessing, and it was like that every pitch they guessed wrong. But I didn't try to strike out anybody.
You had a very unique career in the sense that you came up when you were 25, 26 years old, and you were kind of at a crossroads in your career where you could have either went home and went home to Louisiana, or could have been in the minors, and you decided to stick it out because you didn't come up like Steven Strasburg or Dwight Gooden did to all the fanfare and the sensation. You were in your mid-20s when you really got your break.
Yeah, I was already 25. I was a closer in AAA. And that's how I got called up. Bobby Cox was my manager in Syracuse, New York. I got called up in July of '75, and when I first got here in '75, of course, the team was at Shea Stadium. That's when the new Yankee Stadium was being refurbished to the new Yankee Stadium. So I had Bill Verdon as a manager. I didn't know who in the hell he was. But about a week or so later, they fired Verdon, and Billy became my manager. Now, Billy didn't like rookies. He didn't like inexperience. Maybe not so much as the rookie thing, but if you're a rookie, you can't have experience, and that's what he didn't like. He didn't like a non-experienced guy. So it was tough for me to really do the job I was supposed to. I was already on a tough situation because you already have Sparky. How am I supposed to close, or what the hell am I doing up here if you already got a closer? Well, they pitched you in long relief or something like that, and that was not. I didn't like that. It's not what I was there for. So I got sent up, sent down a couple of times, and in 1 year in '76, I almost quit because the reason they gave me was, we're sending you down, and I asked why, and they told me that, you're not pitching. Well, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. So you're thinking to yourself, well, if that's what they think about you, then they must not think at all, highly of you at all. So I had made a decision to go home, but my wife talked me out of going home. She said, give it one more try, and I did. And but things changed after that. It didn't change for me as a reliever. It changed because I got stuck in the starting rotation. And then that's how I eventually made a name for myself.